Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the November 12th RDC meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I'd like to call to order our meeting. First order of business on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 14th meeting. They were circulated prior to this meeting. Any questions, changes, comments? If there being none, could I get a motion to approve as written?
I'll make a motion to approve them as they appear in the board packet.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, so done. Next up is claims. There are several claims that have been circulated to the board totaling approximately $490,000. Biggest one was for the application for the Connector Trail project.
Yes,
Any
that
questions?
that is just, again, an in and out from us. We received the lump sum from the state this week, and so that is their third payment and the largest yet so far. And if you haven't been down there, they're making great progress. So.
Yeah, it looks good. So any questions or comments about the claims? And if none, can I get a motion to approve and pay?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, so moved. I'll turn it back over to you, Tony.
Today, Gary Smith and Cole are here to discuss and give you an update on the monthly financials. So I guess Gary or Cole, you want to do that, and then we have later in the, under new business, the tax impact presentation, which is a state-required filing, as well as the TIF spending plan, which I'll go over along with Gary here shortly.
Yeah, I can do whichever you want me to do first.
Let's start with the financial update.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's good to see everybody again. Always enjoy coming down here, seeing how all the projects are going. You know, we saw Main Street, of course, as we were driving down in, so that was cool. I'll go ahead and go to page 8 for you guys on your financial report. Look at your completely zoomed out version of the consolidated TIF plan here. You'll notice there's a couple of line items we got highlighted under your expenditures. That was just to make you guys aware that those were some that we changed the projections for 2025 to be more accurate of what we projected to be for this year and moved the rest into 2026. So Tony and I worked through that and got those updated for you guys. So we should have a pretty accurate look about what the end of the year is going to look like. Currently, you got 5.4 million roughly between all your TIF areas. And updated expenditures are looking at about 2.5 currently for the year, but looking to be around the 7.3 mark come end of year. Of course, these might change a little bit, but that's what we're looking at right now.
So can you walk us through the changes you just highlighted? Is this the amphitheater, the tree grant, the ones highlighted in yellow, or?
Yeah, the ones in yellow are ones that we updated their projected amounts for 2025 to be more of what we reasonably expect it to be for the end of the year, and then moved the rest of it over to 2026, what doesn't get paid for this year.
And John, we'll go more into that in the TIF spending plan because that has to be reported to the state. So we have to be within percentages of revenue and expenditures. So that's part of the reason why now we're having to move. In the past, we've never really
Trued it up.
This was a true up for us this year. So we're
Okay.
trying to be more accurate. The overall amounts don't change. It's just the process of spending
The timing.
cash flow and
Just
time.
timing.
The project will dictate it.
Okay, great.
So that's kind of the major change to that side. That, of course, is all updated on page 9 as well on your future outlook and all your projections. But unless you guys have any questions, that's where things are looking right now.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, then we're still projected to spend another $500,000 by the end of the year on the connector trail?
Yeah, probably. We probably will have one more draw here at the December meeting.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was reading that correctly.
Yeah, you're correct.
That's all I had.
Any other questions for Reedy on the monthly financials? Okay.
No.
And then the tax impact update, I'll have Cole start with that.
So we'll knock that out. We'll be knocking out your last two
And
report requirements.
if you don't mind, Cole, remind everybody what that requirement is, and the state requires us to do that, how we got to where we are today, the notices, et cetera.
Oh, yeah. We invite this is the presentation that we have to do by the end of the year, the TIF impact. It's the one where we invite all the overlapping units to come and listen to all the stuff about the TIF. You'll have all the projections and all the AV amounts for all the TIFs, things like that. The actual TIF impact is calculated for them as well. And that's what this is, as well as the spending plan that we now have to do. And Tony and I will be knocking that out today as well, and we'll be all done with reporting requirements. But I'll go ahead and dive into your TIF impact for this round. And I think you guys are all pretty familiar with how TIF works and all that, but the first couple of slides are just kind of a refresher on all the definitions and how the TIF works, just in case you guys want to reference that. But we'll go ahead and jump to the inside the RDC page here. This is just going to be that look at all of your allocation areas, give you a quick reference to their creation years, their expiration years, as well as what each 2025 incremental AV amount was for your TIFs. Page 25 had a little over 86 million in total incremental AV between all of your TIF areas, so good stuff there. Go ahead and flip to the next page here, your financial position. This is taken completely from your financials and just kind of a zoomed in look at your beginning year balance, your projected total revenues, expenditures, and then what we project in 2025 at.
I would just remind everyone that we did sell the bond proceeds this year, which is why the year-end amount's
That's the
higher
revenue.
than normal, yeah.
Okay.
So that was
That was my question.
about 4.7 million. That, some of that, very little of that's being spent, but some of it is, but that's in the year-end numbers.
And your current projects and future plans as well. If Tony wants to highlight any of these projects to you guys, if you have any questions on any of them, I'm sure he'd be happy to. But that's just kind of a quick summary about all the projects kind of going on right now, and just so you have a quick glance at them.
I'll go into more detail on the spending plan on those.
Okay.
So if you guys may remember, in order for us to quantify the TIF's impact to the overlapping units, we kind of have to ask ourselves the question of what would things look like if all of the stuff that's happening right now happened, if there was no RDC, no TIF, what that would kind of look like. So that's how we're able to quantify this impact chart that's on the next page. And to kind of go through these blue columns that's on here first, you'll see the circuit breaker impact in the first blue column there for all the overlapping units. This is because the overlapping units can't levy whatever they want. You know, they have a levy constraint, 4% is what it is right now. And the TIF is not constrained by this levy restriction, so it's able to bring in a little more revenue than it would for the overlapping units. Just to kind of show that number that's highlighted blue at the bottom, 808,371, would be the revenues without the TIF. And then your 2025 TIF revenue collections there, a little over 2.5 million. This is just to kind of show like what we've brought in for the overlapping units once these TIFs expire. So when you go back and reference those TIF expiration dates, this is a good way of showing what we've then generated for the overlapping units once these TIFs fall off. It's a good way of showing that so that they can see the difference of what it would have been. And of course, once the TIFs do fall off, all that AV then goes to the base. But the real impact, besides a circuit breaker reduction for the overlapping units, since they are constrained by their levy growth, is going to be that rate-driven funds impact. That's going to be for funds that are like CCD or other CUBE funds that are set rates. That will be an actual dollar amount, and those are listed there. It's very, very small, very minimal compared to their budgets. It's only 48,000 in total between all the overlapping units. And then just to kind of finish this off, the additional revenues down there that I talked about is 1.7 compared to the 808 that it would have been. But just to show the importance of TIF and how it can generate more revenue, which is explained then here on this next page with this big green box that you'll see. You know, the TIF is not constrained by the state's annual property tax levy growth percentage. It can capture revenue based off the entire taxing district rate as compared to those overlapping units and their portions of it. So this is just a good kind of summary page to show all that again that was on that previous page. But do you guys have any questions on how the TIF impact really works?
So
Any of the circuit breaker?
if it weren't there, there would be $800,000.
Yep, that's kind of,
That doesn't go very far.
Yeah, it really shows the importance of TIF being able to
Yeah.
capture a lot more additional revenue than if all of this AV and your TIFs was just going into the base.
So I don't know if the public understands how that works.
Yeah, and that's why we invite all the overlapping units to come to this, you know, it's really important for them to come and really understand how this works.
You know, I think they have the idea that they're gonna have all this extra money and,
No, it's really only the rate-driven funds is where
Yeah.
they could get.
and then
dollar.
your budgets are limited by the state. So
Yep.
it may affect the tax rates, but it's not really gonna put
Mhm.
a lot of money in price.
Yep.
So
It's
just to
not.
be clear, Cole, on the CD impact, what is the impact to like the school district? Is that, if we didn't have a TIF district, that impact would be, is that just 0.48% of their budget,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, and that's just a circuit breaker reduction is
Yeah.
all it is. It's not actually additional revenue.
It's just a circuit breaker reduction. So it's not revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And the state sets the circuit breaker for us, correct, on property taxes?
Sorry?
The state sets the circuit breaker?
What's the calculation?
Calculation that the state uses to set that circuit breaker.
Yeah, do you guys have any questions really on how the TIF impact is calculated or what any of this means? I'm happy to go into further detail, but
Well, just look at on the right-hand side of this page right here. Yeah, the same one we're looking up there. So walk me through the Madison Civil City. Just read across, and can you explain each one of those to me?
Yep, so the circuit breaker impact is for like your max levy funds, the ones that can fall under that. Since they're only able to levy, and grow their levy by 4% every year, this shows what their reduction in circuit breaker would be if all of the AV that was in your TIFs was just going to the base and there was no TIFs or anything like that. If everything that's been happening projects-wise and all this AV was just going to the base, that just shows what their circuit breaker reduction would be.
Meaning they would not be able to collect 418,000? That's what that's saying?
That's truly the amount of circuit breaker credits that they have to give out. It's just a true reduction in circuit breaker, and it's not actually additional dollars they would be receiving because of their levy growth constraint. If that makes sense.
No.
Well, is there, what's the actual revenue that is lost by the the civil city if the reduction of the circuit breaker was 418,000? Is there a calculation that would dictate how much dollars is currently lost? It's not really lost because the circuit breaker is already,
Yeah, it's how much circuit breaker is allocated to the city. So if we release TIF AV, tax rates are marginally affected, and because tax rates are marginally affected, the circuit breaker loss for the city of Madison would go down by 418,000.
Right.
That's what's driving the impact.
So it's that much less money being collected from the taxpayers. On the circuit-
The
is
amount
that-
stays the same, it's just a matter of how the credits are allocated. So, again, the tax, well, I guess it would be to some extent, because you hypothetically could say, if we pass through, I don't know what the number was,
86.
$86 million to the tax base, there would be a tax rate impact on that, right? Well, no one will actually see a reduction in how much taxes they're paying, but what the city of Madison would see is they would see a reduction in how much circuit breaker credit allocation they would be receiving.
Okay.
Therefore, they would net more revenue in the long term. And I don't like to think of it as like an impact. I like to think about the TIF impact presentation as through the efforts of the Redevelopment Commission over the last 25 years, and the capture and reinvestment in the community, we have generated the opportunity for all the overlapping units to receive $880,000 more than they would have received had the Redevelopment Commission not existed.
Okay.
So once all the allocation areas expire, all this value comes in, that's value that would not have been there otherwise. So that's how I like to explain the impact, as opposed to saying, this year we're losing this much because of TIF. I like to think of it more as, well, we're not losing anything because we wouldn't have the value if we hadn't incentivized the produce to begin with, right?
Yeah, that's that TIF impact question.
Yeah,
That
so what we
is-
did was we truly created that new value that everyone will unlock eventually, it's just not unlocked yet. In 2035, the majority of that value will be unlocked, and overlapping units will then receive the benefit that was created by the Redevelopment Commission.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that hypothetical question there, that what if all this happened if there was no TIF, no RDC? And then next over there, the rate-driven funds, those are the funds that are outside of the max levy funds of the city, so like CCD, Cume Fire, things like that, if they have it. And it's, if, again, if all this AV was put into the base, this would be a dollar amount for the rate-driven funds, since they're at a set rate. If you put all of this AV into the base, it could affect tax rates a little bit, you know, and cause that rate set. If you put more AV into there, it could get an actual dollar amount. But
Yeah, Madison's cume rate set at 5 cents. It used to deteriorate over time as AV went up, and you had to reestablish it every 2 years. It's set at 5 cents now. So any dollar of assessed value increase, whether through TIF falling off or otherwise, would result in additional dollars, which is what that 28,000 represents. So if you passed, you know, if that all $86 million was available, the rate-driven fund would receive $28,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can see just the percentage of total impact. That's just between the total impacts that are shown there in the blue columns. That's just all that percentage is, what percentage it is of the total impact.
These computations are all very conservative, you know,
Yes.
because the parcel detail that we have to do to compute these, we do it on parcel by parcel basis. But to really do a full accurate view of it, you have to look at TS1 data that says, where's the 3% buckets and 2% buckets and 1% buckets on every single individual tax bill and recompute it. And the way we do it is we say if there's an impact on any parcel, we'll throw the cap at 3%, which makes the number bigger than it is in reality. But it's also not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze to go through and get it granularly accurate, because that would take hundreds of hours to do. So for this reason, it is rounded, but it's rounded up, so this is a very conservative estimate.
And then you'll just see the impact as a percentage of their budget, with their budget listed there as well in the green columns.
Okay.
But I hope that helps you guys.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I would just surmise from all of this that, as you were talking about earlier, Cole, is that the creation of the TIF is creating a lot of value, particularly from economic development perspective.
That otherwise,
And I think there's always a perception of TIFs are taking away from these other taxing districts, and what they're really not. They're capturing incremental revenue, but there's still an allocation of tax revenue from the base AV that's being distributed to all the units. So they're kind of held at the level they are at, and then the increment comes to the Redevelopment Commission, and that increment then is reinvested based upon our redevelopment plan. And then after the expiration of the TIF, it all goes back to all of the units of government again. So and we're approaching that on the North Madison allocation area in 2035. Unless there's a legislative fix, that TIF for that allocation area goes away. And then that AV and the tax created from it will all then start being redistributed back to all the units of government. So they'll share in that. So over that hypothetically 30-year period, that number has gotten really, really large that all of these units of government will benefit from. For us, it's a tremendous negative, because in 2035, and as you look at these other allocation areas, that's our primary source of revenue to do economic development in the city, and it's like that all across the state. So what will we have left to work with? It'll be like starting all over again, candidly, but in smaller allocation areas. It's going to be a real challenge for communities over the next several years as these TIF districts sunset. And think about it as the couple $1 million of revenue that we have right now, just a portion of that, right, will go away because it's going, let's just say, 2/3 of it maybe goes away to the other units of government, and we're left with a smaller portion to work with for future economic development. So it's going to be something we're trying to manage, which is why we did the bond this year, was to try to maximize the remaining years left of the primary allocation area and invest those dollars now to generate more revenue in the future. It's something we'll be talking about very frequently over the next several years.
And I would just add, part of the strategy behind that revenue replacement is continuing to create the smaller TIFs when we have projects, so that those parcels come out of the major North Madison redevelopment area, or we create other areas that have large development in the community to capture that increment. So that's part of the strategy to help build that revenue. So when we lose the North Madison TIF allocation area revenue, we've got revenue coming in from some other smaller districts. So, and that strategy will continue. We may have a couple recommendations next year for the commission and the city council to consider, so.
Okay.
If I can, any other questions? I'll move to the spending plan. Again, we're going through a process, the spending plan. This is the second year the state of Indiana has requested that spending plan to be given to us. They've requested that all grants and contributions, as well as any income from tax revenue, goes into that spending plan. So we are continuing to show that on the plan, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward. Go to the chart. So I thought it would be really good to go back to 2020. Many of you were on the board or joined the board shortly thereafter. That in 2020, the TIF revenue for the city was at about $1.4 million in tax revenue. We're anticipating by the end of 2027 that to be about $3.1 million. Again, conservatively, if you remember, we're usually a little bit over those numbers. But so basically, you'll see that the Redevelopment Commission's impact and the investments that have been made have leveraged the tax revenue basically within 7 years to almost 3 times, but about 2.5 times our initial investment. And that would not have happened without investments like the shops at Sunrise Crossing and Super ATV and other investments that have been made, even as small as, road improvements for some restaurants or other economic development activities. So all those things really helped to create the additional revenue. If you look out, what we've tried to do is project through 2027 detailed revenue. Again, you'll see interest and miscellaneous revenue coming through. As you remember, there
Tony,
was
can I point you to say,
Yes.
I think we're all looking to see if that's in our package, but I don't see it.
This is not. Yeah, sorry, we'll take a break. We thought it was in the packet. Sorry about that. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
It's page 9 of
Is it the same?
Is it in the?
page 9 of the reading plan.
It's a zoomed in look,
Okay,
but
I'm sorry.
we'll get the pack.
What's that?
She'll print the packet. Sorry, it came in this morning. It's
We
more
can
of a
go through this one
presentation
if you
versus
want.
that, but you deserve to have the presentation, so we'll get those for you.
Oh, so it's the top part of.
It's the
Page
top
nine,
part,
yes.
yeah. I just-
I didn't
Why
know
don't
if it
we-
was a different presentation.
Do you want to keep going through, Tony, and then we
Yeah,
can
I
just
can-
get that
yeah,
after?
Go
She'll
ahead.
get that.
Thanks,
So,
Dan, for
thank
pointing that
you.
out.
Thanks, Dan. Yes, so if you look at that on top of your consolidated report, you'll see the revenue that comes in each year in the categories, the interest, you'll notice there's a Grody payment that we work through as an economic development agreement for their expansion. The bond proceeds you saw that came in 2025. Anticipating any property sales, again, we may have other property sales, but we currently are only projecting the Madison Plaza with their second payment. If you remember correctly, we delayed that payment until 2027. There's rental income off of current property that we own that comes in. And then there's various grants. We've submitted for a Homeland Security Bollard Grant for public safety. That would be an in and out grant. And again, part of the reason why the RDC has applied for that is because it's an in and out, so it's a reimbursement grant. So for cash flow purposes, it's an easy way for us to manage that cash flow. The Hanover Connector Trail, again, a similar process. It was a project that's a quality of life initiative, and that's a revenue coming in, as you saw that currently. We've identified the Ready 2.0 dollars, and when we expect those, you'll note that has moved out a little bit based upon our current pace of those projects, and we're moving those projects out to begin in 2026 and 2027. Private grants and donations, again, we've had some private donations and other small grants for projects that we've worked on. Welch Park, we've received over $400,000 in private money from that, both from an anonymous donor and the Cotton Mill Partners, if you remember that agreement. So that starts to capture those dollars as well. And then your TIF revenue, which is the main income stream for the Redevelopment Commission, and you'll start to see that projected out to 2027, which was similar to the chart of about $3.3 million to $3.1 million.
So in 27, the $2 million in the private grant and donations, is that a goal, or is that already committed?
Well, there's some current conversations with folks as it relates to projects. The American Cruise Line's one of those,
Okay.
as well as some additional park revenue that we think we will be having with some additional parks. So again, we wanted to be conservative, so that's where we are. But we think there's about $1 million to $2 million that year that we would receive in private donations to do that. So that would either be through foundations or through other sort of economic development agreements. If you want to go to, we can skip over the project detail, project revenue detail, and go to the total expenses. That's where the rubber meets the road here, that I think was real important. So again, as we showed you, we had to start moving some dollars from 25 into 26. Some of that was because of the way the project pace has gone. But I'll go through the projects. The projects have pretty much stayed the same as you've seen before as our recommendation to this plan. Again, the American Cruise Line, Madison Revitalization, we received an initial draft of some economic development language late last week, and we'll continue to work through that. Basically, we're identifying $750,000 of revenue from the RDC to support that, with about $1 million potentially from American Cruise Lines and participatory dollars. The Riverfront Overlook, the Super Overlook, Phase 3, Bob? Is
Last
it?
phase.
Last phase, the steel structure. We're recommending funding of that project in 2026 with late summer construction on that project. The amphitheater, you'll start to see again identifying about $5 million or so for that project. $2 million of that is a grant. $3 million of that is a grant from Ready. We had roughly $2 million in our grant in the bond issue for the amphitheater project. Again, the Ballard grant coming in, the tree grant, again, both of those are really cash flow related grants, money coming in, money going out. The Madison Connector Trail, Phase 1, again, the dollars there going out in 26. The Miles Ridge Park is a new park on the hill. It's in the park master plan. There's community and park district desire to get that project started and understand the impact. So we've identified some park planning money for that in 2026, probably towards Q3 of next year. Welch Park, we're continuing to move forward. We're asking for a little bit more money in the 2026 allocation of $1 million, up from the 25 allocation of $750,000. That'll help cushion some of the shortfall that we receive from the larger grant not coming through with the Bethany Foundation. But it's also, we've done a number of value engineering measures, which has taken the last 3 months to do, and so that project will go to bid here, and you'll be seeing some bid results, we hope, the first meeting in January. So we are asking for a little bit more money. Continuing with wayfinding and implementation as we move forward with projects. And then we get into the housing support initiatives. And again, a lot of the other half of the bond was to support housing support initiatives throughout the community. Certainly, the Madison Coal Company redevelopment project, there's $2 million in there from Ready, as well as an additional potential $1 million in that project from the RDC. The single-family residences, we're identifying, roughly a little over $2 million for investment in neighborhoods and single-family. As you know, we have a couple of developers that we're in conversations with. These things are just taking longer than we would anticipate. But we hope to have some economic development agreement to present to you here in the near future. So I'm not going to say timing because I'm always wrong, or at least I have been on this. And then we've got some additional money in there for infrastructure support as needed, as well as we're asking for an additional $100,000 for PACE grants. We had to remove that out of the city budget this year because of SB 1. And so the mayor is requesting additional $100,000 to be added to our $300,000 contribution for $400,000. And then we always try to put in some project contingency, so we're comfortable if we get some things that aren't or surprises or new projects. We often have new projects. So that's in there. Your West End improvements, which is the traffic calming, the sidewalks and connectivity to the trail project, as well as the new lights that are going up currently. You'll see that money, and that stays the same. The airport had initially requested money for the runway for their match, but the FAA had a new program in place, so their match went way down. And so they've requested us to invest in another city hangar, which will create lease revenue for them and the opportunity to open up another part of their taxiways and runways for future hangar expansion. And we're working right now with a company that may have interest in leasing that would create a mechanical operation. So we're working with the airport as we move forward that, but we would ask for $150,000 for airport hangar expansion at the Madison Airport. And then again, some additional dollars for the Main Street enhancements. Again, we received state and federal dollars for pavement and concrete, but the lamp posts and the landscaping and, those sorts of things were not qualified under that grant, and so we're using, again, your dollars. We're not asking for more, it's just the remainder of what we've budgeted before. And then you'll see debt payments, which total about $1.7 million roughly of our funds. And then miscellaneous and other charges at the bottom to support all our projects and operations at the RDC, from financial to legal to engineering-related services. And so that would be our projected 2026 spending plan, if you so approve. And I'm happy to answer any questions about any of the lines. Gary, did I cover that appropriately? Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
And this can be amended at any point next year as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're not stuck to this, it's just, there's really two schools of thought on it. A lot of folks will just, kind of, not appropriate, but, they'll just put in the spending plan 100% of all the revenues, and then you're not subject to any additional administrative requirements. Others like to get more kind of granular with it and put contingencies in there, which I agree with that approach more so. It means we're paying attention more to it. But if, any one of those lines we were in excess of, we would know that in advance. And all we're required to do is update the PDF and upload it online. It's a very simple process to modify.
And if you look at page 9 of your financial report, you will notice the projected revenue at the end of next year if we spent everything in the spending plan. Even with our cash reserve of $750,000, we would still have $600,000 or so that we did not spend in 2026 based upon the revenue. Mayor, any comments?
Yeah, my comment is, we're going to sound like a broken record again, which are the three things we're very, very focused on. That's housing, infrastructure, quality of life projects. And, what I think a lot about with the activity that we have through the Redevelopment Commission is you see the difference you're making. You can walk out our front door and see it. You can drive around town. You can go to the grocery store or go to Hobby Lobby on the weekend. You see it. Last year, we finished a multi-year project where we spent $13 million on our water capacity, water main, storage, water quality, the treatment plant. How much of that $13 million do you drive around and you see? But with the Redevelopment Commission, you see a changing environment. That's why I think that not only are we creating additional incremental revenues we talked about earlier, but you're seeing a difference to our community that this Redevelopment Commission and these redevelopment plans is making. Unlike a lot of the other things that we do where we're having to spend millions of dollars, you see the difference here. So I appreciate you guys going through this with us. And again, these three primary areas are our guiding pillars. The projects might come in and out as the feasibility of them may change along the way, or our plans change along the way, but those are the three categories that this Redevelopment Commission is going to continue to make a big difference in.
Yeah, and as Gary said, throughout the year, there will be economic development agreements for each project, which may have some impact on the spending plan and/or new projects that may not be in the spending plan that will work to adjust the plan to accommodate. There's always curveballs.
Right.
Exciting curveballs all the time. So.
Do you guys have questions or comments?
I believe there's a resolution, correct, that has to be passed. You want to?
Yeah, real quick on your
Yeah.
on the three initiatives, do you have a breakout percent-wise of how you're allocating, and is it in line with what your vision is?
Yeah, if you look at all the financial report we just went through, like on page 9, I like the way this is being framed up because it does break each of those out by category, and the bulk of it is housing.
Is housing,
And
right.
that is our most critical need in our community. The other thing I'll mention there too, John, is the leveraging factor.
Yeah, you don't have that. I know that is what you talk about a lot.
We showed you earlier on the TIF impact what the leveraging of having the redevelopment of the TIF district is, where we're bringing in 69 cents more for every dollar, for example. So that shows you right there the great value in having the TIF district. But many of the projects that we're working on, we're just a portion. The Redevelopment Commission is just a portion of the capital stack, and there could be grants, private donations, or other capital sources in a project where we could leverage it up 4-to-1, 5-to-1, 10-to-1 in some instances. And so that's what I think is the true impact of the Redevelopment Commission, is the amount of total investment dollars we're creating off of the Redevelopment Commission investment. And when we are leading the way, we're also generating far more greater return on investment than had we not made our own investment in the city.
So if you take the Madison coal property, for example, it's roughly a $15 million project. The RDC may have $1 million in that. We've got a $2 million grant, so you can see that private investment's, fairly large when it comes to the leverage ratio. You get more into a park and rec project, the leverage ratio goes down a little bit. But we try to get that 2-to-1 if we can.
And that would help. Not necessarily for this, but somewhere else the grant money that's associated with this too, because it's hard to tell in here that
I know it is, yeah.
that revenue is.
We've talked about that a little bit.
So I don't want to muddy this up, but it may be good to help on a summary page, what you just described, Tony. I think that also clarifies how much we're generating in grants to support this and how much is coming just from the TIF.
Yeah, happy to do that. We've been having those
Really good
conversations.
idea.
It's a great idea. It's just, we're all adjusting to some state rules and changes, and we just got to create some worksheets that do that for us.
And then is there anything else in your vision that's unfunded that you're saying, hey, we would like to have community initiatives that isn't going to be covered by what we have here?
Well, park investments
Yeah.
are another frontier for us. It's going to be very needed, but very, very challenging from a finance side. He kind of just mentioned that park investments have a smaller margin because generally speaking, you don't have as much, you don't have private investment. You have city investment, borrowings, redevelopment commission money, and some donations. But we have about a need for about $25 million in park investments because of our aging infrastructure and deferred investment. And we're talking about, Crystal Beach Aquatic Park is a great example of, it lasted great for the first 80 years, but you get to year 81 and you just can't go any further until you revitalize it. And that was a $10 million investment. We'll get a half a century of use out of that facility, but we've got to make that investment. Welch Park's another one. But when you get into these bigger facilities that are 30, 40, 50 years old, like Rucker Sports Complex, like Sunrise Golf Course, like the Brown Gym, for example, and then you look at also changing demographic needs of the community, and you have tremendous park investments that have to be made. And that's going to be done by a function of a park bond, redevelopment commission money and investing towards that, private donations, partnerships with Community Foundation, Bethany Legacy Foundation, and other sources and grants. But those are unfunded, but we have a big vision for the next 3 years of working on some of these major parks. And it plays right into our quality of life, plays into our population, and plays into just the vitality of our community.
And many of those things, were invested at the last park bond some 35 years ago. The Shaw tennis courts, lack of maintenance throughout those 35 years, they've now got to be replaced. Brown Gym, same way. It's reached its useful life for most of the systems and facility itself. And Jay, you know what that's like when deferred maintenance happens. It's hard to catch up, right? So
It's expensive to
it's
catch up.
expensive.
But you can feel free to pitch into the early learning center too.
Yeah.
You're asking for money funded. Feel
So
free to
that's
throw some money
another
that way.
critical community need.
It is.
That needs a lot of different funding sources in their stack in order to make it, because that's a $25 million.
25, but I mean, like Bethany was generous enough to give us, some support for some playgrounds, and then a matching grant too if we raise some money.
Yeah.
And so Royer, the
Step
Ty Lin Foundation was generous to give us quite a bit of money. So yeah, we're working on it, but yeah, any bid helps. So if you guys have any extra money from the city you want to throw our way.
Yeah, well, we're very thankful for the leadership the school corporation has given us on daycare and early learning in this community, because a lot of redevelopment commissions and cities and counties and economic development organizations are trying to figure out how to solve that in their community. We're very lucky that we had a good partner and a vision for the school corporation to do that. So it's been very helpful.
Thank you. So we have a resolution 2025-5R in front of us to approve the spending plan as written. If there's no other questions or comments, can I get a motion to approve said resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, so moved. Thank you, nice job preparing all of that and explaining it. Tony, I'll turn it back over to you.
Mayor Madison. Not a whole lot to add, because I was given an opportunity to speak a few minutes ago, which is just, again, thank you. And you can walk out our front door and see your dollars at work. Our Main Street project's going really, really well. It's going to be mostly wrapped up by the time we have our Light Up Madison in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
And our focus is to continue to work on the projects we have outstanding, the trail project, the Main Street project, and we have a TSO modernization project underway, and then we'll keep our fingers crossed that we get good bids on the next park project, which is Wells Park revitalization.
Most of the construction will be finished now for the winter and then start up again in the spring.
Main Street should be done by Thanksgiving, 100%. So we hope we continue to get some good weather. It turned a little cold on us, and which impacted. Next week looks like a lot of rain, but I think they're going to move quick here over the next 3 days to make sure we get done. I think all the striping should be done by today or by early tomorrow. Most of the concrete work. If you walk down to the Comfort Station, one of the enhancement projects that you all did fund was the mid-block crossing, which was much needed with the new Comfort Station and Visitor Center and people crossing there actively. I call it the Hinkles Crosswalk for those of us that use it. But no, it's the mid-block crossing, which will be done here, and will create a much safer environment for our visitors and residents to cross between the Comfort Station, the new Visitor Center outpost, and our north side there, the Main Street parking lot. So it's one of those projects that the money funded.
Excellent. Is that it for? Okay, any public comment? Okay, there being none, next meeting is December the 9th. I could take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all.
Thanks, Commissioner.